So it's time to talk about the Soviets a bit. The Soviets have a pretty solid production of 9 early. However, their main problem is the relatively high industry costs of 7. So at the start of the game, in order to raise your industry a bit, you have to commit a factory value of 7. So normally the first thing that comes to mind is use your production of 9 to draw a whole bunch of investment cards and use them to further upgrade your industry. But take a look at this. For example, in this case, you have to commit a real lot of investment cards, which I'm not sure it is the best course of action for the early game, because it will slow you down considerably in 1936 and possibly 1937. And during this time, the Germans might have become really aggressive or really successful diplomatically. And in most cases, the Soviets and the Western player want to slow down the Germans' diplomatic onslaught by picking up a bunch of action cards and using them to deny the Germans diplomacy and resources. So while you might want to remain peaceful for a couple of years in order to accumulate some peace dividend values, the game rarely ends at an economic victory or European hegemony final scoring. So it is very likely that all these will end up being useless, and possibly the game will be decided in military terms. So early on, you might want to pick up some action cards in order to deny the Axis some precious countries. And of course, you can build up some units if you want to be aggressive in Persia, for example. And mainly at this front, you want to be playing defensively early, because the Germans are, simply put, stronger in the early game. So you might want to build up some fronts, Leningrad being the most important. And you might notice this area of Königsberg, which at first glance seems useless for the Germans, but it is a very good staging point if they want to go for an early Russian strategy, in order to bring many infantry units here, build them up, and then attack you through the Baltic states. However, while they might be able to take down Leningrad early, their series of problems just begins, because there is roughly a million ways to cut them off supply. So if they are not guarding the Baltic states well, you may just come behind their back, and you can also use some planes to arrive in Gulf of Bothnia or Baltic Sea and cut off their sea supply. And in this case, they will take massive casualties, pretty much like what happened historically. Also, let's not forget to mention that you might even want to declare war upon them in 1936. If they have not managed to get many resources, then a single ship in Leningrad can reach Königsberg or Berlin and attack there with the sole purpose of making them lose production because of their low amount of resources. Now, if the Germans have put up a strong force and are invading Leningrad, then of course the first task would be to look at how you can cut them off supply. And if you can't, then you have to strongly fortify Moscow. And if they manage to kick you out from Kiev and Odessa and obtain your valuable resources, then you have to spread your army a bit around, so that they are forced to take some unnecessary fights, and possibly they will have to deal with a lot of bad dice rolls. So if they are stalling somewhere, then you might even have a chance to strike back and possibly destroy them, or even better, make them die out of supply attrition. Speaking of supply attrition, I shall remind you that the Soviets are the only faction that can play the winter. So you can play a card of any value, and if some units are out of supply, they will again suffer supply attrition without you needing to do anything at all. So if you manage to make them starve out of supply in summer and fall, then you are also guaranteed to destroy them in winter as well. And now for my favorite part, the aggressive early Soviet strategy. As we mentioned, our main problem is the industry cost. So how could we reduce this? The answer is by having the enemies declare war upon us. And while you cannot exactly force a player to declare war upon you, although you can strike some kind of deal with a Soviet player that they declare war upon you, and you violate the Americas by entering Canada, and so both of you will benefit from this. There is another kind of strategy which regards violating countries that are very important to them. So it is 1936 and we're building an infantry in Murmansk while using the rest of our production to boost our defenses a bit and possibly some tanks. Now, this infantry is the only unit that over the course of 2 seasons can reach and violate Spain. So a strategic movement in spring 1936 would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And in 1936, you can violate Spain, which normally looks like a really stupid move because it lets a 3 combat value fort and a 2 combat value 1 spawn in Madrid and Barcelona. And the first player to declare intervention and move a ground unit in will get all these units. Plus, by violating Spain, you are gifting your opponents 3 reaction action cards each. However, because this is a very valuable country because of the high combat value of these units, the other players are certain to attack you and declare intervention in Spain, because in order to get these units you have to be an enemy of the Soviet Union. So typically the German player would like to declare war upon you and trigger some aggression by moving this ship, for example, into Leningrad to attack you and satisfy the declaration of war requirements, and then declare intervention into Spain and move 1 ground units into its territory to kind of liberate it from the Soviets, and all these units would be converted into German ones. However, your goal here is to gift Spain to the Allies, and in order to make sure this happens, you have to prevent them from legally reaching Barcelona. So for this case, we shall use this specially designed submarine, which of course could be a ship, a fleet, or a carrier, it doesn't really matter. But during the spring of 1936, besides moving our infantry, we will also be moving strategically this one unit. And in summer 1936, we can further strategically move it into Western Mediterranean. So now if the German player declares war upon us, he cannot move through here because it will be an enemy sea, so he can't legally reach Barcelona. And in this way, we have made sure that the Western player is the one to get Spain. And at the same time, we could even think of violating Poland, which is another apparently reckless decision because it will provide the opponents with a 3 combat value unit for Warsaw and a 2 combat value 1 for Lwów and a 1 combat value 1 for Vilna, and it would also give each of our opponents 3 reaction cards. However, if we use our somewhat boosted tanks to destroy Vilna, which is pretty easy target and plug some gaps here and there. Then the German player is most likely going to declare war upon us and try to take advantage of these high combat value units. And yes, okay, he will have some nice tanks or forts or infantries. But even so, we have achieved our goal of dropping our industry costs from 7 to 5 and then to 3. So, if we withstand the initial punch, which could be possibly an infantry moving into us, we can even retreat or destroy it at will. And then, if we further build up our defenses in Leningrad and Belarusia, Kiev, Odessa, and possibly Moscow if need arises, then the German will stop being a threat because he has to concentrate elsewhere, which is the tough units that the Western player is sure to bring upon them. So not only have you managed to drop your industry cost, but you have made sure to have the West attacking the Germans and vice versa, because now the Western player is tempted to attack the Italians and possibly take down Rome, and the Axis player has to defend at this front as well. So if we reach this situation, which could be as early as 1937 or 1938, then we are golden, because with minimal commitment we can defend this front and we can advance our game plan, which mainly consists of attacking Persia and India. This is the front at which the Soviets thrive the most, because these Western forces are isolated and this colonial garrison can relatively easily be taken down. So after dropping your industry costs, you can just draw a bunch of investment cards each year and your production will hit the skies really soon. You can very realistically raise your industry by 2 steps each year, and of course you have to complement this by some population and resources. And guess what? Persia provides you exactly that. So if you build some strong tanks and infantries and possibly air forces, you can conquer Tehran like a new Alexander the Great, and Persia will be yours. And from there, you can also extend your hand a bit and reach Iraq with 2 more resources. And in this way, you can raise your production really high, while the Western and the Axis players are plunging their funds into each other. So at some point, India will fall because it is a colony and the Western player cannot generate new cadres here. Of course, you will need a whole bunch of aeroplanes in order to bypass this mountain border, and maybe you even have to go through Afghanistan in order to use this mountain border as well. And of course you have to be very careful of not leaving a gap behind which possibly can be taken advantage of by the Western player in order to cut you off supply. But if you conquer Delhi, it's 2 more victory points, plus all of your production and possibly your 1936 peace dividend. And notice that you have lost no victory point for any declaration of war in this case, because it was the other players declaring war upon you. So it's one of the most likely cases of achieving economic victory as the Soviets, if you manage to raise your production at about a level of 20. And let's not forget that there's atomic research in the game, and each level of atomic research will provide you 1 victory point. And while it is relatively hard to achieve atomic victory itself. These few victory points might come really handy when it comes to economic victory or European hegemony.